Yeah, no, you don't want to stay in the center. And I'm looking at tactics right now. I'm not sure if they work. Um, I'm getting excited. Okay, it's not my game, not my pieces, but there's one tactic I feel like we absolutely have to dive into, and it's the move Rook takes B7. So,
There will be no queenside castling here.
and it works. It works. The evaluation bar is
Oh my
okay. It's come back down a
goodness.
little bit, but the point of this sacrifice is that if you take on B7, your king is still in the center here and very unhappy. I am going not to take on F5 because if I take on F5 and go Rook takes E4, you block the pin with Rook E5, and now I'm just down a Rook and I'm the one who's unhappy. Instead, I will toss in this move Bishop B5 check. If you go King to D8, I have Knight C6 with a nasty fork. If you bring your bishop back, then I take on E4 and you're pinned down the center here, right? Bishop B7, Rook takes E4. Thank you very much. You lose your queen and your king is being hunted. So that leaves you with the one move, King F7. And after King F7, your Rook no longer protects the bishop. Thank you for your piece. I'm happy to be down in exchange. Your king will never be safe. H6 under attack. E4 falling. The bishop on the light squares. I think you know how I feel about this position, Fiona, and I really like it for white. The way he's been playing has been great. But Rook F6, I mean, that is what a move. And it might be the only move. It's just such a hard thing to do is playing a Rook lift. You still need your Rook to protect this bishop. But something about this Rook being on F6, it does help out because now Knight takes B7 is a threat. Remember the problem, everyone, was that after Knight B7 check on B5, King F7, the Rook doesn't defend the bishop. But if that Rook had been on F6 to start with, this tactic never works out. The king could have even slid to F8, but has the F7 score with the Rook protecting. So Rook F6 is a brilliant move by Vidit, protecting the bishop and now really attacking the Rook. And of course, in typical Dubov style, he says, please have my Rook. My queen will venture into the game over here. Your king is still unsafe. This has been an awesome battle between two fantastic players. To be brave, take a deep breath in, and take that Rook.
Take the Rook, think later.
Yeah, and I think the lines will actually transpose to one another. So if Knight takes B7, I know I'm making people do this in the head. It's a bit difficult. I'll put on the board in a second. And once we trade here and the queen lands on B7, the Rook will have to come to D8 because it's under attack, and this pawn is falling. But because the Rook is on F5 at that moment, it will come to E5. So I'll put that all on the board now that I drew a bunch of arrows. We get this situation where the Rook is under attack. Let's move it here. Rook takes E4. It's important to note the king has luft, so there's no checkmate on the back rank. And after Rook E5, like, oh, Rook E5 apparently somehow doesn't work because Queen C6 check, and this king is in trouble. All these pawns are hanging. So if you don't have Rook here, oh my gosh, do you throw in this check not just because you like giving checks, but because it frees up the D8 square for the king?
And what madness.
Like this check here, and now king D8, so there's no captures on H6. Like, that's the thing, right? With the evaluation bar, when you know you're okay.
And then what, we make a draw after Queen A8? What's the story?
Maybe Queen A8. I mean, I'm looking at Bishop B5, threatening checkmate. Look, this is so.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, Fiona, look at this. I just saw this in my head. Bishop B5, you're threatening checkmate, right? If Queen D6, Queen E8, followed by Rook takes E8, would be checkmate. But after Queen E8, Rook takes E8 is check to the king on H2. Because Rook takes E8 is checkmate thanks to the bishop on B5. But you can't do it. It's not letting me because the king is in check. That is how games are saved. This is an unbelievable position.
Absolutely incredible stuff. And poor Vidit has 10 minutes on the clock to figure out that he has taken the Rook on B7. So maybe we'll see some of these lines unfold. That's absolutely.
I mean, if we just go down this variation one more time, and it's not forced, right? It's not like knight takes f5 has to be played, but from a distance, it's so difficult to see that rook d1 check is the saving idea. But it makes perfect sense, and because as we saw, queen c6 check, you can't block with the queen. This rook is gone. If you go rook to d7, here queen g6 check still is the problem. And after king d8, queen g8 check, look at this issue. Queen e8 would force a trade of queens, but if you take on e8, the rook comes back, you're safe. But the queen is protected. Oop, not there. There on g8, the bishop protects. So let me take your rook first. Your queen can't take because there's a pin. So white would end up a piece ahead. Oh, this is such a beautiful, beautiful game full of rich tactics. Fiona, it may end in a draw, but this is why I say draws aren't the problem. I don't care about the result. I love the way this game is being played. If Vidit holds, he's a hero. If this game is a draw, it still was a brilliant fight between two brilliant players. Knight takes f5, rook takes f5, rook takes e4, rook d1 check needed to clear the square for the king. King goes out, rook e5, only decision to be made because there's a pin. You don't want to lose your queen. So rook e5, queen. Is there another check? Queen a8 check. You will not play rook d8, I don't think, because then your king doesn't have an escape. So after queen a8 check, the king has to go to d7, and then you're fielding checks like bishop b5 check. The king is still running up the board. King e6, I think, is king d6. There's queen to c6 checkmate. So the king runs to e6, and after a move like rook e5, the king steps in the center. You win king of the hill. I don't really know why this position is just equal. It still is completely wild to me. Even queen c8 check here. Where's that king going? Is it going back this way? Is it going here? No, I don't think king f6, queen h8 check. Look, oh my gosh. I mean, I guess it's still equal because king f5, because of course this position is equal, right, Fiona? This is a dead draw, no questions asked. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. I mean, this game, it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's never, we think we're getting to the end of some crazy lines, and there's always more, and the players have so little time to figure everything.
And here, f3 was played, and immediately it's losing for white.
Wait, this is the game.
This is the game. And
oh my God. I think we have to go there on camera as well. So we have Daniil and Vidit. Oh my goodness, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, this king is going to take this pawn. And unfortunately for Dubov, I don't think he has enough checks. The king may, in fact, walk all the way to c1, take a walk on the wild side here, hide in enemy territory where it's actually at its safest, and the checks run out, and that means the game is Vidit's.
That, I mean, out of all the possible scenarios, that is not one I had envisioned, but that goes to show what happens when you put on resistance. I think especially when you play someone like Dubov, someone like Dubov is likely sometimes to overextend his hand, take too many risks, want the full point too much, and that can backfire. Vidit has held his nerve throughout, and it looks like he's going to score maybe the first well, no, not the first black win, because that was reported just now. Today looks like it's going to be a good day for the players with the black pieces.
Wow, wow, wow. And I have to state this very clearly, that at this point in time, we see that the engine says it's zeros and it's equal. But that is, I mean, where? What is the move? Because rook takes e5, queen takes e5 is check, and check to the queen in the corner. That means the queens come off, black wins. So I'm actually not sure what the move is. At this point, it's very tricky, but I know for certain it wasn't this, because as Vidit's king comes to e4, white's king at the end of this game is not going to go here. When they put the kings in the center, it's going to be a black king on e5, a white king on d4, signaling a victory for Vidit Gujrathi, who started 1.5 to 2 against the American players. Now with the black pieces going 2.5 to 3. And I just want to say that when, you know, this whole growth of the game of chess, online content creators, there's been many fans for many people, and sometimes there are people who mistake popularity for strength. There's no mistaking this for Vidit Gujrathi. He is reaching his highest rating ever. If he is able to put nerves aside, his king is on e4 and win this game, he will be ascending towards that 2740 territory. He is proving his worth as a player, his strength as a player, and he's also a fantastic person, so that doesn't hurt either.
Absolutely, and I'm sure he has that India #1 spot in his sights. He could be dethroning Vishy Anand soon, who's been holding that spot for God knows how long, forever it feels like. And Vidit, well, he's been given a check from A8, but it's actually funny. This game started out with Vidit's king being in such a precarious situation, and suddenly look at Dubov's king on H2. As soon as the checks run out, that king in H2 is going to be in a world of hurt.
I mean, I'm drawing the arrows of where that king has gone. Like that's what just happened in this game, is the king with rook, bishop, queen staring at it. The king just walked up the board. It will continue. King e3, queen f3 check, only legal move, king d2. And there goes that king to c1, where it finds shelter at long last. I mean, it's over. There's nothing that Dubov can do about it. This king is reaching the other side, and you don't get to promote your piece, but that will promote Vidit to 2.5 out of 3, and he will be the leader that people are chasing. Nobody's going to hold me back. I don't care what time frame you give me. This game is wonderful. I'm just so excited by all of the great chess we've seen. And we've talked about this a couple of times, blunders, inaccuracies, how to phrase certain things. And this game, I'd be wrong to use the word blunder anywhere. I think that Vidit's defense, the wonderful defense that he showed in this game, has earned him the point that he is going to obtain. I mean, seriously, to find rook f6, to make Dubov question his entire attack in the way that he did, and look at the concentration on his face right now. He is locked in. He knows that the win is just a few moves away. He is not going to let this slip.
I mean, also bishop c6, so Dubov not giving a check. The king was going to hide, but now it is Vidit's turn. I was just saying a minute ago that king on h2, and Dubov, he knows that things have gotten out of control, and it will be really a tough day for him. He played such an interesting game, so many exciting sacrifice ideas, and yeah, always sad to see him like this. But kudos to Vidit. It is his turn now, Robert. So how do we proceed as black? Do we start giving some checks of our own?
I think he should. And the reason why the bishop came to c6 is because without the bishop there, this queen would come to square like d6, and there would be a check on the second rank, and this king would be in trouble. But after g3, the bishop can slide back to g2 to defend the white king, which is now in danger. I just don't see how Dubov can follow things up. Let's say I play queen e5 check. You have to play g3 because king h3, rook to h1 is a quick checkmate. So g3 has to be played. And I'm going to try to find the best way forward here. I'm sure there are many good moves. Like you could probably even take pawns on c3 and start mopping things up. But I want to go for this king. And I'm looking across the board. I would like to get my queen in here. Maybe g4, queen h5, queen h3, just checkmate you this way. That looks pretty promising as well. I mean, that's actually how you can't stop that.
How do you stop that? I mean, if you give checks to the black king, black king, I guess, will once again either run to c1, where it seems to be safe. If you give a check from f2, I guess I just go to c1 and, oh, you just want to swap queens.
I mean, king c1 might be better. I think objectively that is probably the case, but when a win is clear, let's just get the win, right?
Let's get the queens off, because I expect this one to be over very, very soon.
There it is.
Very
there it
nice.
is. What a game.
Vidit really ending it in style.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised after that whole knight b8, knight d7, after those moves, maybe that was a mistake, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if Vidit played a perfect game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing comments in the chat, Vidit's immortal. I'm very curious to hear from him after the game, and there we see the handshake, Dubov stopping the clock. in resignation. And wow, Robert, I think we have an early candidate already. It's only round 3, but for game, not only of the round, but of the tournament.
Early candidate for game of the year. That was so electric. I mean, throughout the whole game, it was Dubov's position. Rook takes b7. Don't forget, he sacrificed a rook and he sacrificed a pawn early in the game. He put his knight on the rim that was captured, double pawns. Everything about this game was special. And some would say it's unfortunate that the game was spoiled by a mistake. I don't think it was spoiled. I mean, I don't expect any result. I don't expect players to find perfect moves, but this game was so entertaining. You can't ask for more as a chess fan. And I right now am a chess fan. I know I'm commentating. I'm doing my best to give you the best analysis I can, but I am a fan of both of these players. They just played their hearts out.